Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Conversions, the June edition in 2023. I'm going to give everybody some time to start joining. And before we get started, I just wanted to do a quick recap. If this is your first time joining a Coffee and Conversions live event session, let me tell you a little bit about what it's all for. This is content and sessions that are provided by marketers for marketers. It is a great marketing community of business leaders from all different types of industries that are looking to address challenges and get more involved in the marketing community around the globe. So we're really excited about today's event. I'm joined by some wonderful marketers and business leaders in the health and health tech industries. And today we're going to be talking marketing health, powering message and meaning. So again, Focus USA is presenting Coffee and Conversions. I am your host, Meg Ugenti. I am the Corporate Director of Sales and Marketing at Focus USA, your one-stop direct marketing solutions provider. And like you, while I'm also head of revenue for Focus USA, I am also head of marketing for Focus USA. So just like you, I am dealing with these same challenges day in, day out about how to get the right message across to my target audience, how to identify the right target audiences, and the challenges that we face as marketers all day long. So again, thank you all for joining our session today for Coffee and Conversions. And without further ado, let me introduce to you our amazing panel. So diving in today, we have, let's go ahead, Nate, and start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and what brings you here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nate Wardwell. I am a product marketer at High Touch. High Touch is a B2B SaaS company. We support other companies in activating their data. So if you have data stored somewhere and you want to activate that data to your marketing tools or to your advertising tools, we're the platform that really enables that. Why I'm here today, I'm passionate about healthcare, and it's one of the areas that we serve as a company. A key part of our infrastructure and approach is not storing data and keeping it within a company's infrastructure. So we are HIPAA compliant. We work with healthcare companies, and as a marketer myself, I'm really excited about the potential that our approach has for healthcare, and I'm excited for this conversation with everyone here.
Absolutely, Nate. Thank you so much. And Adrienne, I'll kick this off to you next.
Yeah, thanks so much, Meg. So I'm Adrienne Delaraba. I am Senior Director of Marketing for Go Health. Go Health is an on-demand healthcare platform that really serves as the front door to a large healthcare ecosystem. Our model is that we partner with leading hospital systems across the country to provide accessible care, really founded in urgent care at the highest quality. We have over 200 centers currently and virtual care. I've been with Go Health for just over 4 years, and prior to that, I spent most of my career on the agency side, specifically in digital, building marketing capabilities, and teams from everywhere from startups to large companies that are really looking to grow. My role at Go Health is to focus on our marketing strategy and then also build and foster relationships with our hospital system joint venture partners, one of whom is Cameron and the Novant team. So happy to be here.
Yay. Cameron, with that, I will go ahead and leave it to you to do your intro.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cameron Musler, and I'm a Senior Marketing Manager at Novant Health. My team focuses on front door patient acquisition for our primary care and walk-in care venues, maximizing synergistic partnerships with our payer partners, and overseeing our system's larger digital paid search and paid social strategies. For those that aren't familiar with Novant Health, we're an integrated system of physician clinics, outpatient centers, and hospitals serving communities primarily in North Carolina and South Carolina. We have 15 medical centers, over 700 locations, and we're supported by more than 3,600 team members. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Cameron. And Kitty, I'll kick this off to you next.
So I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of a company called Resonance. We're an artificial intelligence, machine learning solutions company focused on healthcare outcomes. We've developed a bunch of pretty novel technologies. We utilize this signal of an intentional cough. It's called a forced cough vocalization, which is an incredibly rich signal. It's a biometric and biomarker laden signal. And we use it to do a bunch of different kinds of things. All of our solutions utilize a mobile app as an interface to the user. And all the magic AI stuff is taking place in the cloud, and the app is sort of interacting with the cloud. But we look at trying to do a few different types of things. We've created a diagnostic platform that you cough a few times into the app and it can diagnose whether or not you have COVID. So we've built a COVID test, a tuberculosis test, and we're working on an influenza test and hope to do a bunch more. So you cough a few times, in about 2 minutes, it gives you a result. And then we have a bunch of wellness products, and we're using this signal to try to help people understand their respiratory system status. Whether you have some kind of impairment, you're trying to quit smoking, you have long COVID, you have COPD, or you're just interested in making sure that your respiratory system is working as well as your heart or your blood pressure or anything like that. So those are the kinds of technologies that we've been developing. My job is really to try to make sure we've created products that consumers and our B2B and clinical partners are interested in. And we're in a very, very new space. This is not common. There's not a lot of really anybody commercializing anything like this. So we're doing a huge amount of experimentation and exploration about how we educate consumers about this technology and how to make it feel easy and fun to use. So that's kind of what we started the business about a little over 3 years ago. And that's been our focus ever since.
Groundbreaker is your new title, right? Like, it's a new space. And thank you so much for joining us today. And Nora, go ahead with your intro.
Great, thanks. Hi, my name is Nora Marsh. I'm the Director of Marketing at CareMessage, which is a healthcare technology tool focused on patient engagement and activation. And so primarily our product is a platform for texting patients, appointment reminders, lots of rich group outreach messaging to close gaps in care and to enroll patients with chronic conditions and health programs. And what makes us really different is that we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we are really mission driven and focused on serving underserved patients via federally qualified health centers and free and charitable clinics. We've been doing that since 2012. And now we work with over 400 safety net organizations in 43 states. So we've reached over 10 million patients, which is really exciting. We have measurable clinical outcomes that have been published in multiple academic journals. So really exciting time for us as we continue to grow our platform and our reach to underserved patients. So thank you for letting me join this. I love healthcare marketing. I've been working in healthcare marketing for over 20 years, and which is kind of hard to say, but I really value the relationships that I have with other healthcare marketers, and I'm always excited to hear from others in this space on what they're doing. And I think we have a lot that we can learn from each other. So excited to hear more from this group and hopefully share a little bit about what I'm focusing on right now. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nora. Yes. So for everybody attending today, you will notice that this panel is diverse. Everybody is coming to the table with a different point of view from a different seat at a different type of company in a different position. That is intentional. And so we're very excited to bring everybody to the table, have a cup of coffee and learn something. So let's go ahead and dig in. So I've broken up today into 3 parts, and our first part is really going to be a lot about understanding our audience and the patients or customers that we serve, right? So to the audience that's attending, overarching questions to the panel are going to be, what are marketers and business owners that are serving the healthcare space? What should they be mindful of when thinking about their target audience? So feel free to answer this in the chat, add some questions in the Q&A team. But I do have specific questions that I'm going to dive into. But also, I want everybody to also think about what are some of the major challenges that you were seeing in your current role. So Cameron, I'm going to kick this off with you. How has your target audience changed over the past few years? What are some challenges that are rising from your point of view and how you're actually tackling that change?
Great question, Meg. As an integrated health system, I think everyone is part of our audience. We serve patients throughout their lifetime from cradle to grave. However, across the board, I think there are some key nationwide consumer forces that are impacting consumer preference for healthcare delivery. Those include patients want an ease of navigation and convenience when it comes to how and when they're receiving care. In-person visits are expected to decrease 6%, while virtual visits will increase over 28% over the next 10 years. So this presents two challenges for us. One, how are we onboarding new digital experiences and meeting patients where they're at? And two, how are we competing with new entrants? 63% of patients say that their current providers' digital tools don't meet expectations. And 41% of those patients will actually choose a new care provider because of that poor consumer experience. And we're seeing entrants such as Amazon, Walmart, and CVS all enter this virtual care space. So what is Novant Health doing? Well, we're doing two things. One, we're meeting consumers where they're at. I'm excited to say that when COVID hit, we were ready for virtual care. We've been agile and testing new virtual care experiences for several years now, and we're on the forefront of providing consumers the ability to get expert care no matter where they live, work, or play. Some exciting opportunities where we're at currently is we have virtual care clinics that are at public school systems, local Ys, and homeless shelters. Back in the day, you may remember going to a pharmacy and putting your hand in the blood pressure monitor as your parent or guardian waited to refill their prescriptions. Well, those types of machines have taken leaps and bounds, and now we can listen to your lungs, see into your ears, and we can do this all without a provider being physically present. And we're embedding these in convenient locations, as I mentioned above. But it's not just providing these locations that's key. From a marketer, it's awareness. How do we tell consumers that we're there and we're in those places? So from an awareness perspective, we at Novant Health are constantly working on how do we iterate our messages and how do we optimize our outreach strategies to encourage engagement and drive conversion. So all in all, I would say consumers are changing when and where they want their care, and new entrants are coming in. So as a healthcare system, we need to work on providing new technology and look into ways in which we can communicate to our patients and consumers that that new technology is there.
Absolutely. I think, when you talk about audiences, being everyone, right? It's how do you really have that personalization? How do you really communicate with them that this is the right technology that's solving their problem when somebody might want to actually see a care provider versus somebody that wants a virtual care option? I'm curious, Nora, how that differentiates from your target audience as more of a B2B2C targeting strategy. Can you tell me a little bit about how you're developing your own target audience strategies?
Yeah, sure. B2B2C can be a complicated area, and we focus specifically, as I mentioned, on healthcare organizations that provide care to underserved patients. So safety net healthcare organizations, federally qualified health centers, free and charitable clinics, some other Indian health centers and Native American health centers. And so really, we almost can do account-based marketing. Our audience is small enough that we've moved to a lot of that. And I think it is important if you have a relatively constrained audience, or even if you have really high priority targets, to put in the effort to learn a lot about those prospects and to make them feel like engagement with your sales process is really relevant to them based on, other healthcare technology tools that they're using that they're going to want to integrate with, based on, issues of their patient population. We have an excellent member of our sales team who will look at data about, HRSA data for specific healthcare organizations to say, like, what are their patients dealing with? Which case studies should I bring in that are going to be super relevant to them? And so I think for target audiences that are small enough to be able to do more of that, it's well worth the time that it takes, which it does take a lot of time. But also, we do a lot of channel marketing through partnerships, through associations, through our technology partners. So, I think it's important to say, from a marketing perspective, we all know this, like, where are your customers at? Are you there? Is your messaging there? What are the industry groups that our customers work with? How do we, make sure that we're partnering and bringing more value in the situations that they find themselves in. And then finally, I think everyone in healthcare marketing knows to just demonstrate a really deep knowledge of their patients, and how do we differentiate our product that takes your patient's specific needs into account. And even in the nonprofit healthcare tech space, it's who can we positively impact, and how do we partner with the organizations that serve them, and that's even actually allowed us to expand our target somewhat. I mentioned the Native American tribal health centers. That was not an area that we focused on a lot several years ago, but we said, oh, they have really similar needs and problems to our core target customers. Maybe they're also our core target customers. So I think being open to that and being able to figure out how to scale your marketing efforts to reach other groups that maybe you didn't initially include is really exciting and fun as well.
Absolutely. So, to me, what I'm hearing is kind of stay curious about your audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep
Yeah.
investigating your data and your needs. So, Kitty, I think that presents a really good kind of entry into your point of view on this. You're in the early stages of developing target audiences because you are in uncharted territory, right? You're introducing some of these amazing products that are going to make the world better. What are some of the key messages and value propositions that are resonating with your audience? And how do you ensure that your team is actually developing good marketing content and materials to address those specific concerns?
Oh, we have so much to learn. It's really fun for me to be listening to all of you, because you're a number of steps ahead, maybe years ahead of kind of where we've gotten in terms of our maturity and understanding what resonates with our customers. And we too, primarily because we're small. I mean, we're really a startup. We're less than 50 people. And so we have adopted, for the most part, a B2B2C approach, because we are able to get leverage there, working with channel partners and engaging users in places they already are with these partners. So we have, that's been our approach, but that's been kind of a requirement for us. We don't yet have a good enough understanding of doing something direct to consumers where we could spend a huge amount of money and feel like we would get it right. We still have so much to learn. What we know for sure, and I think what all of you know extremely well, is that people care a great deal about their health. Healthcare is complicated and messy and ugly and unpleasant in virtually every way that you can imagine. It's just really a hot mess. And bringing forward solutions that are simple, that are available, that are intuitive in terms of how they work in your life, that's where we spend our time. We're kind of focused on a health signal that most people don't really think about. And so we're trying to invent that category, like you should care about how your entire respiratory system is functioning. It's behind really everything that you want to do. And so we're trying to figure out what resonates with people on that. How, under what conditions is that important to you? We know, and we straddle two worlds. One is health, meaning you may be in ill health. You may have contracted an illness that is perhaps dangerous or very injurious to your ability to sort of live your life the way that you want to. So you want to know what you have as fast as possible. You want that to be under your control, that do I have it or do I not have it? Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to do it in a place that's easy and convenient and familiar. For us, using a mobile app to answer that question on a device that's already in your pocket or your purse that's exactly where we want to be. On the other side is this idea of wellness. So how am I well? How can I maintain that wellness? How can I improve my wellness? What are the factors affecting my wellness? And, we think about it as respiratory. That's about connecting the dots between how you feel and what you're being exposed to.
Mhm.
So like we see certainly all kinds of things about, when you think about the wildfires that have been taking place in Canada, and you suddenly see this horrendous sort of apocalyptic looking, the sun is red in New York, everybody remembers those images from a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So our focus is, look, everybody knows that's really bad, right? And you don't need anybody to tell you that. And there's a lot of really sophisticated technology that measures the degree of, pollutants and problems in the air. So everybody knows that's bad. That's a mature science. What we don't know is how it's impacting us. We don't have a way to connect that to my personal respiratory health. What does it mean when I'm out walking around, walking my dog or walking to work? So that's where we try to focus is, well, how is it impacting you? And when you have that conversation with a consumer, everyone understands that. Like, they don't need to know our science. They need to know that what we're trying to do is help them understand impact. And then they get to make good choices. They get to decide how they want to address it, where they want to go, but at least they have a base of understanding. I always say, if I can understand something, I can handle anything. As long as I understand. So that's what we try to do, is give them context so that they know that they have options and they are understanding of what their next steps could be.
Thank you, Kitty. I think, education, especially around technology or new innovations, is when you reframe something where it's like, this is going to help you personally, Meg Ugenti, this is how it's going to affect my lungs, my respiratory system. This is what's going to do for my family internally. So I think once you kind of start to frame those questions around certain target audiences, I think messages really do start to connect differently and more rapidly. So I'm curious to see how your journey continues as you start to roll out that education. But I'm going to switch gears for a quick second to Nate. You are our product marketer on the panel, right? So I'm curious about, how do you generally think about identifying target audiences, and what are some of the trends or factors that you're seeing or that marketers should be considering when trying to better understand their target audience?
Thanks, Meg. I think already, like in this panel, we've heard such a wide range of what that audience might look like. In Cam's case, like it could be literally anybody who needs healthcare, versus for Nora, it's so specific and so targeted to certain potential account buyers. I think the concept that I use to think about all of this that I've found really helpful is mapping out an ideal customer profile. Like, in the best case scenario, who do you want to see your message? Who is your buyer? If you know your ideal customer profile, it's so much easier to figure out what you need to be saying and where you need to be saying it, because you have like a very specific map of what you want to do. And that can vary based on like product line or feature. Again, if you're coming from a broad B2C company, maybe you want to reach everybody, but there are certain features or certain products that you can really narrow in and figure out who you want to reach. To make this like a little bit more literal, I'll give a high touch example. Again, not a healthcare specific example, but how I think about ideal customer profile for us. We really have two different profiles that we're trying to reach. We're a company that helps activate data from a warehouse to marketing tools. So like our two profiles are our data team leaders and marketing team leaders. For our data team leaders, our messaging really will focus on ease of use and like the workflows that this will solve for them, and sort of the better accessibility they'll have for their data and the better governance. So it's a pretty technical talk track, very much grounded in their lived experience. And as I look at that ideal customer, I'm looking for a decision maker, someone who's going to be in a buying decision for that company. On the flip side, when I'm talking to marketers, it's not at all about the technical side of what we do. It's all about the outcomes. Marketers want to achieve personalization. They want to be using their data. They don't care about how the sausage gets made. So it's a much more outcome-driven philosophy and type of messaging we go to market with. So, again, knowing those profiles, I think helps everyone figure out how to tailor each message. And as we launch new product lines, as I've been at other companies that launch new product lines, and I think as anyone on this panel launches new features or products, I think that same exercise is really helpful to dial in to what to say and where to say it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the personalization features, right? I think we went from, I think I read something recently in the journey of marketers, especially in direct marketing, which is my world all day long. I talk about target audiences and how to reach them literally all day, every day. But it's one of those things where we've gone from like personas to like one-to-one, almost like personalization, and like how you have to really have this conversation with a specific person. And I think that matters so much in healthcare, in healthcare marketing, whether it's, it could be B2B or like a systems provider versus a tech provider versus if you're actually going out to like your community, right? That are actually going to be coming through your door, entering through your virtual care rooms to talk to them. So Adrian, how do you stay updated on the evolving needs and preferences of your target audience?
Yeah, thanks, Meg. Great question, and something I'm super passionate about as a marketer and just in business in general. My feelings are really summarized by it is critically important, if not the most critical element of marketing, to hear directly from our customers. We have so much data at our fingertips now in healthcare and otherwise. Quantitative insights are, my BI team will probably kick me under the virtual table right now, but that's kind of the easy part, right? Like collecting data. But data and trends are really only part of the story. And when you think about it, it's also typically hindsight, right? It already happened and now you're going to react to that. So ensuring we have a pulse on the voice of our customer, it can add so much value, and not just in marketing either. We've integrated into our core strategy as an organization, outside of marketing and into, all the way through operations and growth and product development. So it's become core to our organization to really take customer insights more than just quantitative and analyze them to impact our business. I'll add to that, it's not any secret. I think everyone here at this table and probably in the room as well knows that the healthcare landscape has changed so dramatically over the past few years. So being ahead of the game in terms of being able to anticipate and not only looking at hindsight at what our customers' needs, wants, values are can really be the game changer for any organization or product. First-party research that is really specific to receptivity of your own value proposition, and also not a one and done, a continuous feedback loop, is really crucial for us to be able to deliver and go above and beyond for our customers, which is really what we're all trying to do here. Personally and for GoHealth, we've embarked on and really invested in meaningful studies, segmentation, which we can certainly talk more about, but also focusing on the basics. We have an NPS program in place. We have Google reviews. All of us have Google reviews, simple surveys, just kind of hearing from our customers. So as a marketing, knowing our customers is really the exciting part. It lets us be creative. It lets us be thoughtful. And that's invaluable. Once you can tie all of the insights into everything from product development and growth, like I mentioned, all the way through to marketing, that's when you're really customer centric. And I think I speak for most of us when I say that's really the holy grail. If we can be customer centric and we're truly meeting needs and not forcefully selling something, that's what a marketer's dream is all about. So I think hearing from our customers, and that's how we stay updated and that's how we stay ahead of things, is really what my job is all about.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, I think you named it, right? Like you start with your audience, you start on getting like feedback from your customers. Any good go-to-market plan starts with really knowing your audience. But the next step is really starting to develop your message to that specific audience, which is bringing us into Act 2 for today. So, a lot of the trends that we're seeing and that I'm having conversations about include around like messaging in the healthcare marketing space. It's personalization, it's patient empowerment, it's value alignment, emotional appeal, technology adoption. Privacy is a huge one, right? I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on, but overarching to the group here and to our audience, to kind of start to think about is like, how should marketing teams be more thoughtful about integrations of all of these different trends? And how are they actually measuring the success of these different trends? So Cameron, I'm going to jump to you. Like, what are some of the ways that healthcare marketers can actually continue to enlist patients and customer trust in the engagement of their messaging?
Thank you, Meg. So some ways that we can continue to enlist patient and consumer trust engagement is one, operationally pivoting away from simply being a healthcare delivery system into being a total health and well-being delivery system. And what that means is no longer thinking about it as episodic care. I broke my arm and I'm going to go in, I'm going to get a cast put on, and you're one and done with that patient / consumer. It's thinking about their lifetime value and everything they might need at different life stages. I loved how the panelists today have already been talking about that micro segmentation, and that's hitting in at the right time and right place when each person needs care throughout their wellness journey. No matter where they're at, there's so many areas of preventative care that are key to stay up to date and to help you thrive as a person. And as a health system, we're focusing on a neighborhood model where you can go to your primary care clinic and your primary care provider will connect you to that more specific acute care needs throughout our system. And those are some of the ways in which we can differentiate from those virtual venues that are appearing, the Amazon, the CVS, that don't have that integrated system of connectivity and lack that personalized touch and feel. From a marketing standpoint, in order to enlist that patient and consumer trust, we're continuing to strengthen through our brand messaging. And we do that through choosing language that represents our current and future states and goals for where we want to go and grow. And we're also simplifying language that everyone in our community can connect to. So think all-inclusive copy and messaging. And we're using fewer words. So what we are saying is easier to recall, recite, and bring to life in our copy and creative.
That's awesome, Cameron. Thank you so much. So, less is more sometimes when it comes to message, right? Making it meaningful, making it connect to your audience. So when you're looking to kind of expand your audience, and I know I have talked to a few people that are starting to really get more into that value type organization or that value type message, and value alignment message with what their patients and consumers and, maybe even the other companies they're working with or caring about. So Nora, for care message, I mean, you work with organizations that help fulfill the needs of underserved communities, right? So how are you using technology to actually help push that mission forward?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it's really at the crux of what we do. And I think our technology tool that we created was developed because of the fact that our founders felt that the U.S. healthcare system leaves low-income communities and communities of color behind oftentimes. And I think that we often see in healthcare technology that we inadvertently compound inequities by building technology that caters to segments of our population that are already, to put it bluntly, like pretty privileged. People who have employer-sponsored health insurance, people who have financial and emotional resources to focus on, like, how many steps am I getting every day, and how much sleep did I get last night, and what was the quality of it? And so, there's a lot of solutions out there from a technology standpoint for those audiences. Those audiences, tend to be, where the money is a lot of the time, but technology can also be a really powerful tool for helping to increase the quality of care and health outcomes for the patients who need it most, and who might be unhoused or undocumented or unable to manage chronic conditions because they don't have the financial resources to do that. And that's actually a lot larger segment of our population than people often are aware of. But messaging to those healthcare organizations that work with underserved populations from a marketing standpoint is a little bit different, because your typical healthcare messaging doesn't necessarily apply. And you got to think about being understaffed and being really tasked on a daily basis with helping people in areas of their life that are a lot more comprehensive than just, an urgent health need, different, issues around social determinants of health and hunger and poverty. But it's very, I think, gratifying from a marketing standpoint to put myself in the shoes of our customers and try to think about how can we message about what we can help them do in a more automated way to save time, to be able to serve these patients better. And, you know, SMS text messaging is a great equalizer because most people, almost everyone now has a cell phone. And even if they can't get on the internet, they can get SMS texts. And that's how we reach millions of patients every month. So, you know, equalizing that patient communication and engagement has helped us to build a sustainable business model. So I think it's really exciting to think about how technology can be used, you know, more broadly across our populations to really help to improve health equity, not just help everybody be healthy, which is obviously important as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And so, Kitty, I'm going to position my next question for you as we're still kind of on the technology conversation. You know, as you continue to develop technology that's used to actually, you know, used to help detect potential health concerns, and you have more adopters, right, of this AI technology, how do you think that's going to impact the way that organizations can respond to the amount of data that they can access in real time, how they can actually respond to their patients, maybe with employer healthcare versus patients that maybe without, like Nora was just mentioning?
Yeah. So before I started this business, I was in the data business for a long time. And one of the things that I was reasonably obsessed with was, you know, how do we humanize data? We all have obscene quantities of data available to us, but it's really hard to figure out what it means, what it's telling us. And then to be able to tell that story to others, to compel them to understand something or take an action that will benefit them. So, you know, that's, everybody knows that that's a tough thing, that gap between gigantic reservoirs of data and insight and understanding and action. The specific question you asked makes me think about an experience we just had, which was, we have this particular product that helps people that are suffering from long COVID. It helps them keep track of a bunch of biometric signals and symptoms and vital signs that they collect themselves. One of our users said something, I had not thought of it that way, but she said, this is like having a second brain, something that's going to keep track of stuff for me. It's a really powerful insight for us. And we only got that because we were literally talking to her. You know, I was having a conversation with just that person. And so that's one of those things you'll never find, you know, in a big old CSV of, you know, survey responses, right? Like that's the kind of thing that it kind of creeps me out to imagine that I probably never would have known that if I hadn't happened to have that one conversation. But regardless, we started to think about how with this board of medical advisors that we bounce things off of all the time, because we always straddle, like, how is this good for the user who is a consumer, a patient? How is this good for healthcare providers? How does it work for them? They don't know anything more about our technology than consumers do. Why would they? It's brand new. Like, that's it's a whole other education initiative to help them understand. And there's this really interesting distance between what we think and what we might actually do. So we talked with our advisors, all practicing physicians, about all this data that they would now have access to for their patients. And they all said, oh my God, that's great. I love that. Oh, it's so great to be able to see that. Because we built these dashboards for one of our, we'd like a dashboard. We'd like to be able to see this data about our patients on this dashboard. No problem. So we sort of go along that path. And at one point I say to them in a conversation, so explain to me, like, would you really use this? Like, you're a practicing physician, you have a busy practice, you have a million things pulling at you. Would you really sit down and look at this dashboard? And they're like, oh, this is so important. I said, okay, but would you, like, for real, would you actually use it? And in the end, they said, you know, I would rely on my case manager or my nurse maybe, or maybe even a tech checking a person in. But, you know, the truth is they didn't have time. So as interesting as that is, this idea of putting all this data into a dashboard that's super easy to use and all that stuff, there's this gap between, intention and reality that we were able to figure out. And what we understood finally was where we finally got to was they said, if you could print that out for me and slap it on my patient's file before I walk into the, my appointment, that would really help me. So we sort of had to rehumanize the way that it sounded one way, but the truth was the lower tech, sum it up for me, make it easy for me to digest really fast because I only have 10 minutes with this patient and I am not going to be fiddling around with the dashboard in that interaction. It's just one of those learnings that, again, we wouldn't have known that if we didn't really push for that kind of insight.
I love that story, Kitty, because I think it's something that really addresses, what someone thinks they want in personalization versus what the reality of what that actually is, and really kind of understanding whether that's a physician, right, that you're getting to utilize or adopt your technology to help, in their patient outcomes or help educate their patient,
Right.
About what's going on. You have to make sure that message is coming across through that person in a way that it's actually going to get across, right? And sometimes making that connection on how that actually happens is very different than, like you said, like the really beautiful, amazingly intuitive technology dashboard versus just print it out and put it with
Can you just print that out for me?
before I go see him. It's like, wow.
Yep.
But Nate, I'm going to pivot this over to you because we're talking about personalization. Can you speak to what's happening right now with the demand for more data-driven personalization? Like how marketers should actually be leveraging their data when you can get that in your nice CSV report or in your data warehouse, how you actually can use that data to leverage and meet those needs.
Yeah, I'll say it's more than just like demand, it's a necessity at this point. Cameron shared some stats earlier about consumers changing their preferences and being ready to switch. Even if your customers aren't saying to you, we expect personalized experiences, the reality is if someone else is providing those experiences, you stand the risk to lose them. I think about personalization, it's all about when and what, and that either way, knowing when you want to reach them or what you want to reach them with is all driven by the data you have about them. If you're lucky enough to be a large enterprise organization, you might have a dedicated data team that is able to do, machine learning models, predict, hey, in the customer's life cycle, we think this customer is going to be needing an appointment at this time, or going to be needing a follow-up, or might be churning, or whatever else. Ideally, if you're at a large organization, maybe there's a team predicting it, but just getting data isn't good enough. As Kitty mentioned, I hate dashboards. I think dashboards are a waste of time. Having data you can look at isn't good enough. You need data that is actionable, that is actually put into immediate places where it's used. So much of our philosophy is like, don't let your data sit in your warehouse, figure out what you want where, and then export it to your HubSpot or Salesforce or wherever else you actually will use it on the day-to-day basis. Put it into the hands of the people who use it. Even if you're an organization like most organizations I've been at have been too small to have like dedicated data teams or even that predictive machine learning practice built in. A lot of these platforms do have that, right? Most email platforms, most advertising platforms have personalization features built in that can sort of be a shortcut and start to help you on that journey to personalize. But again, the success of those platforms to personalize all depends on the data they're getting. And the more you're able to provide them, the better they're going to be able to help you as you personalize that content.
Okay, if I had a poll question set up right now, it would be who loves dashboards and who doesn't? Because I think we're at like a 50-50 split here. While it's not great for everything, I do love dashboards. I will put my vote in right now. But it has to work for your ecosystem and your situation. Again, like the products we develop are for agencies, resellers, and brand marketers. But Adrian, I'm going to close out Act 2 with you and ask about what are some of the top trends that your team is actually incorporating into your marketing strategy to help measure the success of your data-driven personalization, your messaging, etc.
Yeah, it's great to hear that there's a lot of themes here and we're all talking the same language and about the same things and we're all doing them a bit differently. I'll touch on a couple of things a little bit more deeply. Value segmentation was one of them. And I think that as we've undertaken this body of work to really architect our audiences based on more emotional drivers and not that kind of rational or conversion driving opportunities, and shared values has really allowed us to stand out in, this isn't really true of all of healthcare, but for urgent care specifically, and what's kind of a commoditized category, right? Like urgent care is urgent care in the minds of some customers, but allowing us to dig deeper into like real values has been able to set us apart. When we look at how we used to do segmentation or targeting, a woman 25 to 54 can look and, more importantly, really feel a million different ways. It's not that kind of square, clean box anymore. And so value segmentation takes demographics out of it. It allows us to create relationships versus conversions. Again, the measurement is really the challenging part of it. But what we found is that measuring the impact of something like value segmentation is really based on customer health. So taking a look at our customer base, making sure that through this type of targeting, we're not just increasing the quantity of customers, but we're increasing things like overall customer health, which we do by scorecard, and also lifetime value has been really important. So tying those two things together has been critical for us. One other that I don't think necessarily came up, but has been a real big focus for us is what we call media diversification. So media is obviously one of the larger portions of our spend in marketing and just overall. And really, as at the core, we're a performance marketing team. So it's been super challenging to implement media strategies that we know as marketers work. And when we think about our customer and their journeys, we know these things are impactful, but without attribution of something like Google search, it's hard to kind of prove or show that to something like a CFO or even partner financials. So we've been really lucky. I don't want to say lucky. We've been really successful at putting together modeling that creates accountability for non-conversion media, like out of home, streaming audio, allowed us to venture into those channels to reach customers and speak to them through value segmentation messaging, and prove that media mix that's really based on a journey is way more powerful. It allows us to be flexible and react and respond to a category that's always changing, and is ultimately more productive. It's an investment, right? Like media attribution is one of those other marketing holy grails aside from knowing our customers. But we've been really successful at poking at it. Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's been really interesting and a core part of our marketing strategy that I'm really proud of our team for. And then the last thing, I don't have a ton to say about it, but it's so interesting to me in regards to personalization. That's one of the other themes I hear consistently coming up. I don't come from a healthcare background, so I come from like retail and packaged goods. A lot of the tried and true methods that we implement for personalization in those categories are really just not appropriate for healthcare. So it's almost like I'm starting fresh. But if we tie it back to value segmentation, it's been one way that we've overcome those barriers. So it's maybe not one-to-one personalization, but becoming more deeply connected to our customers in terms of their values feels personalized. And then I'm super pumped to have met Nate through this panel because I'd love to pick his brain more on that. Seems like there's something interesting there. But those are three of the kind of the trends that we've really been thoughtful about in our marketing approach. And I see just kind of setting us apart and creating differentiation.
Thank you, Adrienne. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different, things when we talk about media mix, right? And the game of attribution, and anybody that's involved in marketing that has this really great idea, they're seeing, success in their certain things, still has to take and prove that concept to their CEO or the powers that be to get budget to then expand on these things. And when you can't attribute to certain media channels, I know that's been a big challenge for marketers, whether you're in healthcare or any other industry, honestly. So it's like, show me the CEO. I don't know, Kitty, if you can say this, but it's like, show me the data and I'll give you your budget. But as we we only have a few minutes left. We have a whole other act to get to. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this now. So Adrienne, I'm still going to kick it back over to you as we talk about, consistent improvement to our processes, right? We talked about target audience. We talked about messaging. You just talked about, media mix and leveraging that messaging across personalization and, through that long customer journey. How is GoHealth? I mean, GoHealth was a very fast adapter to the virtual patient care that hit when COVID hit, right? You mentioned that early on. How are you continuing to improve that marketing and communication strategy to adjust to today's kind of hybrid care world, like Cameron mentioned earlier in the panel? How do you kind of
Yeah.
keep feeding yourself?
Yeah, and like Cameron said, we had telehealth as a key opportunity for us prior to COVID. Even kind of came across the landscape. We were ahead of the curve in terms of the technology. We were agile and fast to move, but we were really looking at rolling it out in a way that allowed us time and space to learn and optimize and grow. And we wanted to do it slowly and in test mode. And fast forward to March of 2020, we blew it up and understood that really the ability to provide different forms of care to our communities, like telehealth, even if it wasn't perfect, right? It wasn't the exact way we wanted it, was a way that we could service our communities in times when literal doors were closing on them in terms of getting care. So fast forward even further, what we really did was rip off a Band-Aid that held us back initially, allow us to see that we can actually enhance and improve our product quickly just by listening rather than the tried and true test and learn approach. Bringing that back to messaging and communications, when a product foundation is based on that customer need and we've listened and we've evolved it, marketing becomes more natural. Specifically for telehealth, we've taken the approach where we aren't selling something new and novel and shiny and tech driven. We're providing an option and a choice. We're putting our customers in control. That's really true hybrid care. It's not dictating what a customer should do. Like, here's telehealth, go book your visit now. It's meeting them where they are, which I think came up before, and putting them in the driver's seat. And that just creates, again, bringing it back to relationships and increased shared values. That puts us ahead of the curve. So COVID was an accelerator for us. It proved to us that we could do things that we didn't think we could do before. And we anticipate continuing that, to take that learning and apply it as we go forward.
Awesome. Thank you. So, for Nora, if an organization is actually hoping to address, social determinants of health and equity, where do you tell them to start?
Yeah, that is a hard question because I think outside of the kind of safety net nonprofit space, I think lots of organizations recognize the impact of social determinants of health. They know, and I've worked on other for-profit healthcare technology, and we knew we should find out, like, if patients are experiencing specific situations that are going to impact their health outcomes. But if you survey on that information, if you uncover it, how do you address it? And what do you do now? Like, it's really hard to provide resources that are actually relevant. And it's hard to make sure that information is updated and accurate. And so I think that, the first step is, being honest with yourself as an organization. Like, what can we handle? How can we actually help people? Can we actually help people? Let's not just uncover social determinants of health data with no intention or no real plan in place. And how are we going to measure it? I feel like I'm in a great position as a marketer in the B2B2C setting that I am in now. I can look at our customer data. I can look at trends of the way they're using our platform. I can dig in and then bring those best practices to other customers and say, here's a case study. Here's a use case. Here's something you can do. We saw one of our customers use our texting platform to survey. They had a healthcare organization, but they also had a food pantry they're running, which is typical with a lot of our customers. They surveyed the people who went to the food pantry, and they found out that they were drawing food pantry users from 10 different counties, way outside of their patient base. And so then they can say, oh, there's food insecurity in these other areas. Let's send resources to people that is maybe more local to them. They don't have to take the bus and come over here. So I think just really being discreet about gathering data, providing resources, keeping a narrow focus where you can be relevant, and being honest as an organization on that, which can be hard, but I think that's the most helpful thing.
Yeah, don't start something unless you're willing to dig into it. To actually make a difference. No, I absolutely agree. So I know we've got 5 minutes left. We might run a little bit over, guys, but we're having such a great conversation. I hope everybody sticks with us. Kitty, my next question is really for you. Like, you have a really great quote on your website. Our mission is to have a meaningful, positive impact on global health with these innovative AI-powered solutions. Using non-invasive mobile app interface for both diagnostic testing and wellness tracking creates equity for everyone, everywhere. So my question for you is like, what's next? Like, what are some of the other solutions that you guys are in development? How are you going to help create that equity for everyone everywhere?
Well, we were, we founded the business right in March of 20, right when COVID exploded, and became the horrific global pandemic that it is still today. And one of the things I love about our approach is that if you think about the first year or so, year and a half or two of COVID, it's a massive amount of infrastructure for testing, which was totally understandable, but it's massive testing facilities and personnel and logistics. And it's just an unbelievable undertaking that we committed ourselves, and countries all over the world committed themselves to. And we think that it shouldn't have to be that hard, right? Like diagnostic testing, what we felt like the purity of our solution to start with has been, you have a mobile phone, you have an internet connection, and you cough. And so you don't need extensive public health infrastructure. You don't need skilled people helping you through this process, and PPE and laboratories. And I'm not criticizing that. That's what we had to do. We did the right thing by creating all those things, but we can evolve that and we can do better. And if you take your mind out of the United States for a moment, we're an incredibly privileged country, and you think about faraway places where there is no public health infrastructure, there are no vaccines or therapeutics or testing centers. How can you make sure that everyone truly everywhere, no matter what your situation, can have access to great solutions? They may not have a desktop, machine that they can do certain kinds of things with, or go to a place that can truly help them. So that's how we think about it, is how can we replace costly and sometimes completely unavailable infrastructure? And so that's really our focus, is how do we make all of this available to everybody? We're running a business that feels like a diagnostic business, but we have software margins, so we can keep our pricing really, really low. Our cost to process a test is truly pennies. So we can make our pricing low, which means we can truly reach everybody, and all you need is a phone. So that's really drives the core of everything that we try to build, is keeping that equity idea in place and making it affordable and available.
Thank you, Kitty. Yeah, I'm so excited to see. I know you guys are new. You just started out in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, but I'm so excited to see what you guys are doing next and how that's going to really impact the world for everyone everywhere. So thank you so much for joining today. Nate, as part of High Touch and my other data geek on the panel, I'm wondering what your advice would be for marketers that are actually dealing with data overload. That's another question that I get all day, every day, especially from healthcare marketers. There's so much data out there. How can they actually turn what feels like a weakness into one of their biggest strengths?
Meg, I love this question. I know I've felt this before, and I know if you're feeling overwhelmed by your data, I personally think that's a good thing, right? It means that you have data, you have a lot of it. There's so much potential there, just a matter of how you tap into it and unlock it. I'll say that at High Touch, we work with companies ranging from one person founder-led shops to Fortune 500s, and not a single one of those companies is actually happy with their data. They're all it's so disorganized, it's all over the place. We'll be ready to use it in 6 months. Everyone says that. Messiness with data is definitely the norm, not the exception. So if that's your state, no one's doing it better than you, and that's okay. I think the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Maybe a way to tackle that is going use case by use case, right? Thinking through the particular personalization you want to get out, the particular message. Maybe that's how you start to tackle your data. But either way, being pragmatic, figuring out the things that matter most can help guide you, your data teams, if you're lucky enough to have a dedicated data team, on the parts of your data you need to clean and organize and focus on first. I'll make my one selfish plug. We see this all the time with our clients. We've built a platform that we think does a great job at helping companies take snapshots of their data, figure out what matters, and export the key things out to the tools where they need it. So, selfishly, I'd say, try us. I think pragmatism is the way to go. Find the solutions you need for the problems you have.
Awesome. All righty. So, Nate, you might have
That
frozen
customer
there.
for that message, then we'll get you there.
Okay, great. Sorry, I might have missed that last part. I think you froze for just a minute, but that's okay. I think we get your message definitely. So the plug, reach out, check out High Touch if you haven't already. And yeah, data messiness, I agree. I mean, everybody I talk to, small business, Fortune 500, data is a challenge for everybody. So Cameron, to wrap us up today, what are some of the key tools that healthcare marketers absolutely have to invest in or adopt to stay competitive and continue to help serve their communities?
Great question, Meg. There's so many great tools out there, but I know we're over, so I'm gonna keep this short. I think the first tool that every marketer has to invest in is their team. We need to retain and invest in top talent. The marketing landscape is so competitive, and it's more competitive than ever with remote working capabilities and options. It's important that your team members feel respected and empowered on the team. And a huge shout out to my Novant Health team that joined the call today, where we work cross-functionally to collaborate and bring our work to life. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my team, and thank you all for joining. The second tool, I believe, is innovation. We need to consistently seek to innovate and courageously transform ourselves to find new ways to add value for our patients and communities, which is why, in addition to investing in our team members, I think it's important to invest in our vendors and treat them as strategic thought partners, which is why I always encourage routine check-ins with the vendors. And don't just talk about the short-term KPIs and goals, like what you need to hit for this campaign. Share with your vendors your strategic vision and partner with them to collaborate and understand what tactics and programs are out there in order to help take us to the next level and be competitive and help serve our communities best. Meg and other panelists, it's been great being a part of this convo today.
Thank you guys so much. So I know we're over, but it doesn't look like we have any Q&A as of yet. I know I'm probably going to get some follow-ups from this. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I am glad to know and partner. Well, know all of you, partner with some of you. Thanks so much for a great discussion today, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Meg.
Bye.
Bye.